Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. Today in the studio, as usual, Able Shepherd 051 BK, what's up? Good, brother? Awesome. Also, we have Able Shepherd 075 Nick Higgins in from Maine. And the 86er, Able Shepherd 086, Jason Campbell in from Montana. What's up, guys?
In for a cameo.
And for a cameo. You guys ready to roll? Get your hair done? Good to go? Makeup? Good?
Thanks, how's the hair?
I like
hair
my
good?
hand.
Did the mom thing? Okay. First off, we want to thank our sponsor. So Able Nation, that's able-nation.org. If you're in charge of the safety of your church, of your school, of your civic group, contact Neil at able-nation.org. He can help out. Right now, we're kind of heavy on scholarships. Like he's able to do the scholarship training for people to get them, like get them started, like on a church security team. We're going to talk about all this stuff. It started off as simple things like crash bars and camera systems, the inexpensive doorbells and stuff like that. Then it started growing, and then we expanded. I'm one of the co-founders of Able Nation. We get in there when there's not a budget for safety, and we can help out. We've done great things. It's amazing to we got another fundraiser coming up, and we can help out where we see a need. Mm-hmm. So again, contact Neil at able-nation.org. Love you, brother. Neil Pinkham the Sage. Did you get to talk to him?
I talked to him last week.
Okay,
I haven't talked to him this
visit.
visit.
I've got my meeting with him tomorrow. All right, guys, let's get to it. So we're not going to name this one. We're going to let it name itself. BK is going to assess it. We'll attach a name to it. I've got some ideas, though. But what I'd like to hear from you guys is it's been a while since you guys have started. Mm-hmm. You drive from Montana regularly. You drive in from Maine. That's just fun to say because in my mind, I'm like, that is, like, I like driving, and that's a heck of a drive. Why would you do that? Well, actually, let's back up. Just for people, because some people are just joining us and maybe they haven't heard some of our previous ones. Kind of recap, how did you hear about Able Shepherd? That brought you here, but you've been coming back. What have we done since? Some of the stuff for the future ranges, for the adventures, mm-hmm. for what we just shared up there in Montana and what we were able to prove in that time frame. Mm-hmm. So who wants to start? 2, 3, not it. Jay, go.
Elder Higgins.
Oh, wow. What is happening?
I don't know. I just feel like I get older. Well, as far as how I heard about it, I am a member of American Warrior Society, and I've trained under Mike Seekelander for a number of years. And my wife, which to this day still blows my mind, was listening to the podcast that you were a part of. Mm-hmm. And I come home from work or wherever I was, and she's like, hon, you got to listen to this. This is awesome. And I dove in, listened, and as soon as I hit the stop button, I was on the phone talking to Neil and sign me up, get me down there. And from there, it's just been an amazing journey in recognizing not knowing what I don't know. And from that, since then, becoming Phase 4 Able Shepherd, and with multiple conversations with you and Jay and guys back home at being the head of security for our church, small church, this is something that was needed. So we're in the process of getting the guys trained, and at the same time, for myself, setting up a training center and praying to God that it launches and takes off and people are blessed by it. And I want to add to that too, the one of the big things that drew me was the Christ-centered, the conversation that you and Mike had, mm-hmm. and then getting here and truly seeing that it was legit. And it put a hunger in me to want to bring that home. And it's taken a while, and we're still in that process, but those conversations we've been having mm-hmm. about what that looks like, and working together, growing and recognizing that this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
That's awesome. I've got to re-listen to that podcast because it was awesome. And I kind of remember what we talked about, but I remember like all of a sudden we're talking about Jesus, and it was super cool. He's like, yeah, I'm a Christian, and he's a big gruff guy. And he was like, yeah. And I could be better and blah, blah, blah. And I don't ever know, but it just went to a good place. It was a genuine place, and we gained some great guys from it. Yeah. So that's awesome. My brother.
Yes. The exact same doorway, meaning it was a Seeklander podcast, the same exact podcast. It took us a little bit longer to figure out the details around coming down here, and that was at my end. Pinkham was fantastic and just so.
How cool
Man,
is that he was working?
Good dude. Like
he was working the phones back then. Can you
totally. Yeah.
He's like, whatever, man. What do you need? So good.
It was fantastic. But like Nick says, it's, training. There are many, many training locations that, they tout different things about them. Each one has its core competency, and sometimes that overlaps with this one, and this one overlaps with that one. And it was absolutely your wearing your faith on your sleeve and communicating that to America. And really the driver for me was, can I bring my wife down here? And is this the right context to be able to work with her in? Because you know it better than I do, the gun industry and how gun guys are. I mean, we were just in a shop today that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I would never bring my wife into that shop we walked into today, ever, period. And so I was kind of using that, I was absolutely using that experiment as a barometer, as a canary in the cage to see what that was going to look like. And ultimately it answered the question, is this appropriate? Absolutely, it's appropriate. And I can't imagine there being a community. I can't imagine there being a training that is more appropriate. Like it just isn't, it doesn't exist out there. So we had an outstanding experience in that 5-day intensive. Outstanding experience, to the extent that, our whole drive back to Montana, we're talking about how we can take the next steps. And what that did, because I had engaged in multiple Seeklander classes, and they're fantastic classes. But the nature isn't the same in that there isn't this community set up, and it's not Christ first. And so that was critical to me. And in addition to the training being far and above everything that exists, in my opinion. And because you go through that door, it's Disneyland.
No secrets, brother.
No,
it's all coming. It's all coming out. Right?
Yeah, that's right. So it was those pieces that got me down here. And from those very exciting conversations after that 5-day and we're driving home, I should have done this before we started, but I honestly can't remember. That was like January, December, I don't know, somewhere November of 18.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And so the calendar has just clicked by.
Right.
And I still can't get enough of it. Like I can't. It's and we'll get into where we're at now and that other thing. But anyway, that's how
so
I'm
good.
sitting here.
That's so good. Cause like we, and since then you guys have driven out here. I don't even know how many times you come out here. I don't know if you keep track or whatever, but and some, like you've been through horrible flights.
Yes.
Like with your wife.
Yes.
And somehow, I don't know how she still lets you come out. And then you drive out here because you prefer to drive. Like I said, I love to drive, but man, Maine, that's a haul. And spend weeks at a time. And I don't even know how to recap on that drive that we just did out to
Kansas City.
Like we went out to meet my nephew from Kansas City, and I can go ahead and say this because the secret, by the time this airs,
Right.
next week will have happened. We went on a secret mission and to meet up with my nephew who came out here. He's been estranged from our side of the family, meaning I just don't know him well. It's my wife's nephew. And he came out here and got a taste of this and helped out with the cooking at the turkey fry for Thanksgiving and just joined our family. And he got a whiff of this. He's like, this is amazing. And being around just these kind of men. And it was awesome. But he flips motorcycles. He's 17 years old at the time. He's now 18. And he buys motorcycles and works on them and fixes them and sells them and all that stuff. Like, hey, keep your eyes open for a little 110. Got a son and some girls, and we want to get a family bike. And my son's birthday is coming up next weekend. So as opposed to going to the store and buying one, I was like, can you find me a deal on one? But I knew I was going to go out there and it's going to be logistics and I was going to pay him for his time. So it ends up being almost the same money. Right? Sure. So he finds me a deal on one. And then he gets to do Uncle Jim a favor and kind of drive out and deliver it halfway. So we meet him in Waukene, Kansas. Not a whole lot going on in Waukene, Kansas. I know it sounds like a thriving metropolis. It's just not. So we go out there and find a Mexican restaurant and we're hanging out and he's showing us the 1, 2, 3s and we buy him lunch and we just chat, Then we come back. But basically the gist of it is 9 hours. We get to sit in a truck and just talk about all of this, right? And it's not very little, not very little, but it's not the gun thing and it's not the training, it's something else. And I just went to Texas and spent time in the woods with 40 plus letters from the community in a time when you go hear from God. And it was an emotional experience, we just put it that way. And those letters weren't talking about clearances and they weren't talking about guns and they weren't talking about any of that. It was everything else, what came to the front of why they are still here. So that's the kind of thing that, I kind of want to tap into. So what, the Christ-centered thing, but okay, so we talk about Jesus. So what's behind that? Like why does that matter?
Oh man, if it doesn't matter, why are we doing this? I came out here this trip to further my training, further my advancement, and we really haven't even touched it yet. But I have been spoken to by God numerous times since I've gotten here. It's been, and that's typically what happens to me when I come out here. If I get away from the stuff back home and we get to have these conversations and, join you at church and stuff like that. And it's like the receptors are on full tilt. Yeah. And it's good. I would have loved to recorded the conversations we had.
I didn't think about it until you said it later. I was like, man, I should have been running that thing the whole time.
I mean, those were priceless, just stuff that was said in that truck. Just awesome.
Anything to add on that?
Yeah, I've got about... I got hours to add to that, brother. Why? Restate the question if you can remember the question, because where my brain, like I was listening to Nick and I'm thinking about that ride where we're bombing out there and none of the conversation is about guns. None of the conversation is about tactics. The conversation was about answering our calling as men and what is at our absolute DNA level. And so tracing that back to this trip that I come down here with Leslie, and my DNA as a protector and my calling as a man, my calling as a Christian, this is the intersection of all of those. It's like the conduit for growth in all of it. And that's why I get in the van to come down here, is not to put rounds downrange. It's to feed on moments like this that make me a better man, makes me a better husband, makes me a better son, makes me a better friend. It's all of those things. And by the way, we get to send rounds downrange.
That's right.
Oh, there's that.
I mean,
and it's there's the rounds downrange thing, but like as we've talked about many times, Is it shooting a gun? Like I'm just pro gun. I love guns, and I do. I say guns are cool. They don't make you cool. They're cool, right? It's a capability. It's a thing. It is a platform that helped build this company, and that got people in the door. But when they came in, we just posted a thing because we've been working with the marketing team, and for the first time, I think it's the first time that I've seen it. They said, "Come for the family, stay for the training."
Yes,
it's opposite of kind of what a business does, but we realized that. The thing I just informed the staff that this business is getting an upgrade, because to be honest, something's been missing. Like, yes, it's always been Christ-centered, but as you said, the business is now Christ first. Like, you're not going to accidentally find out that I'm a Christian guy, because I'm going to blow your hair back when you walk in the door, because none of this matters if I don't have a foundation. It just doesn't, right? So I've said it this way, and I think that's what you guys are saying, are agreeing with me, is that if you're a prepper and you're good with a gun and you do all of this stuff, you invest in yourself and you're like just the guy that's ready, and then and you live longer than anybody and then lead your family straight to hell. I don't get that. It's just not a sustainable plan. It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's silly, actually. Because like when you really think about it, if you, whatever you believe in, if you're standing there at the gates of hell and your family's behind you and they're like, "Dad, what are we doing here?" Your true answer, if you've got any integrity, is, "I led you here." Right? And I can't have that family looking at me saying, "We followed you." Right?
That's right.
So when we say, what is able shepherd, and I say able means capable, and shepherd means teacher, leader, protector, it means, I say this all the time, we're all teachers and leaders. You're teaching people right or wrong, and you're leading them to heaven or hell. Right? Doesn't mean they have to follow, but you are teaching. It's everybody. Everybody you see is putting out something. Might be garbage, might be awesome, but you have a choice to follow them or not. But then add to that a protector. And not everybody is. And I'm working with the book, and what came to me was like, a protector. Are you a protector, you're a predator, or you're a pretender? Like, those are the three things that I'm kind of working on right now, because doesn't mean with a gun. It doesn't mean if you would stand up and say, "Don't talk to that young lady like that when somebody's being inappropriate to my daughter," you are a protector. Right? And you might be a 70-year-old woman and you put yourself up there and you faced evil and addressed it. You are a protector.
You are.
Right? So that's the thing. Now, if you're the person pretending to be that, well, that's just, I don't see that as genuine. And I see it everywhere. Right? So I'm hoping that what you saw was something genuine and you came out and say, "Okay, what's this guy got going on?" Because I'll be honest, when I see anything that has to do with guns or anything else, and it's a Christian thing, it's kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, meh. Okay, so now you're using the Bible to kind of make a point and make some money, because I've met those dudes and it wasn't genuine. So I almost didn't do it. Like, actually I didn't do it when I first started, but then I felt called to do it. And now it's just, I'm going full tilt. And I'm like, hey, well, you have to believe what I believe. You got to be okay with me believing it, or you can simply train somewhere else.
Right. That ties into, I don't know if we're ready for this part of the conversation yet or not, so pull the reins if we're not.
It's America Free Nerd.
And that is, there's evidence in my community, there's evidence in my family, how genuine that is and how accurate that is. And so we can talk about, so I've been doing this for years, and obviously my family, my extended family, hears about and gets to see video clips of and photos of the body of work that we're engaged in down here. And last year, I get to come down with my brother-in-law. And
what's up, Chris?
Chris, what's up, brother? And it instantly strikes the same chord with him.
Yeah.
And he can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And so now we're starting to build this community in Missoula, Montana. And so he's fully engaged in the development of his capability, for sure. But he is also much more engaged in his development as a man called by God to respond to God's will.
Yeah.
And his family directly benefits from that. His wife, his son, everybody directly benefits from that. Okay, so then we move down the calendar just a little bit, and Then my brother-in-law, who's the pastor at Anchor Church, he's married to my wife's youngest sister, reaches out to me, and that was like the end of January of last year. And he asks me if I will serve the church in a way that's a direct reflection of all of this capability. About a year down the road, my brother-in-law, who's the pastor of Anchor Church, asks me to launch a security team for Anchor Church, and immediately say yes. And it takes a while to develop it because I was stuck on the model that I used to get here. And I've got a team of other guys that are, to me, they're young men. They have young families, and doing a 5-day intensive just isn't realistic. And so then it's, how do we innovate what is going to work? Because to me, the standard that's established here is non-negotiable, meaning I'm not going to engage in standing at the front lines in protecting the flock if the guys around me don't have this skill set, because I know this absolutely works. And so we launch into the plan. And again, that was over a year ago. And so then there's a whole bunch of planning that has to take place on the structure of it. And you were up, and so that was for my birthday last year. You were up. And so then we got to sit down with the pastor and a couple other guys and talk through from your perspective and your experiences with not just churches, but other organizations. And so then we start building the concept on what realistically our team looks like for Anchor Church. And then come around to January of this year, we get to have Abel Shepherd come to Montana. We get to have Jimmy Graham come to Montana and work with our team at Anchor Church. And you see these young men absolutely come alive. And it's coming alive in that way that gets described as reintroducing them to their DNA. Because these guys they're Montana dudes, and they're absolutely protectors. And now they get to engage in the thing that to them, that's the reason that they have guns in their house to protect their families, and they conceal carry, and they do all of those things. But this is the connection to where that fits in their lives as Christian men, and it fits in to how they become the protector they've always wanted to be for their families and for their community. And they get to create now this community that's strong, healthy men. And that's what they want their families around are these strong, healthy men and strong, healthy families. And that started because of that very first 5-day with my wife down here. And so the evidence of how valid this is and how deeply true this is that there's this well that has sprung up of all of this Abel Shepherd activity in Missoula, Montana.
Fruit, brother.
Fruit of the vine.
I think that was such an amazing opportunity to go prove that this is portable, that it can be modified. And basically the gist of it was I came up for 3 days, limited schedule, but just because it wasn't like a all day, everyday thing. These are guys with jobs and families. So we did the best we could with one evening, and we packed it in there, another evening, packed it in there, and then a range day on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in that amount of time, that happened, right? You're unlocking people, changing an entire paradigm, like an entire paradigm shift of, that's right, this is my job. That's right. I am called by God to do this. That's right. I am like as far as being a Christ-centered thing is that a foundation doesn't mean stand this way, toes in, heels out, fingers bent, or knees bent, finger on the trigger.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a foundation as a man, as you were designed to be. How does that feel? They're like, that feels pretty good to me. Right. Or I didn't realize this was all connected, or I've got a question about this. And we ask another question. They go, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Right. This isn't a hobby, it's capability. That's my job. And we don't hold back. Oh, I'm in the greatest story ever told, and it's true, and it's still being written, and there's a book about me in it. Let's go make it a good one. Like stuff like that, it can't be missed. And they go, all right, I'm in. And that's a young ministry, actually. So having I was impressed. I was kind of surprised a little bit by the age of the guys that were in your particular ministry, right? Because it's not typical. I'm like, wow, and they're hungry. And they're like, how can I serve? Because they showed up because they want to serve. And the answer was like, would you protect our church? And the answer is, oh yeah. And then so this is what I love from your end. If you're going to do it, there's a standard, right? Because this is the part we leave out. If you're going to do it, there's a standard. Not, hey, grab a gun. Sweet. Meet you on Tuesday. We'll go shoot at paper. And then we'll go to Denny's and talk for a while. And then you're on the team. It's like, oh, what? Right. What just happened? You're going to walk around my daughter with a loaded gun in some kind of high tense environment and potentially harm her? Like, this is just not okay. So when you say non-negotiable, that's exactly right. Back here, I have to defend this thing called Able Shepherd, and I don't flex on that at all, actually, But we can take the best pieces on limited time and say, well, how about I start them and you take them? How about they get a good, solid foundation and then you manage them? Because what I can guarantee is just, even if we did nothing, you guys are going to go home and be better at making them uniform, safe, and accurate. Right. So that's the piece that was just fantastic to see. And I know you're working in that direction too.
For me, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you guys, and I haven't been to every training center in the country. Yeah. But this is to some of the gun guys that I've gone and I've shot with, it's a masculine thing. Yeah. I'm not a typically, maybe accidentally throw a swear word out or whatever, but that's not how I roll. And usually there's a lot of that going on at the range. And there's the prideful, look at me, I'm XYZ, whatever. So I guess where I'm going with that is this is a rarity where it's Christ first, it's gun training, it's you've got a lot of women taking this class as well, or in the program, but it's all tied into how to be a man in the right way. When you're here, you sense that there's something different. And as a Christian man, depending on your maturity, spiritually speaking, but as a Christian man, right off the bat, that you're involved in something completely that you've never seen before. And so many people in the gun industry, the training industry, are so afraid, even if they are Christians, they're afraid to put that first. Mm-hmm. Because they're afraid they're going to offend somebody and they're going to lose a customer or whatever. And as you've said numerous times, the story that I hear a lot is, the guy that wanted to just hang out and take out the trash. Mm-hmm. And it was because he saw something different. And that is so huge here because every one of us, you kind of said it a little bit earlier, every one of us are accountable for our choices, right? And people use the saying, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. And that's not what happens here. Yes, you lead him to water, but while the horse is down there sniffing it and licking it or whatever, there's somebody beside them or beside it, whatever, that's encouraging it training, demonstrating, this is how we do this. This is how you do this. This is how you get to be successful at this task. And then while I'm showing you how to do this, I'm also showing you how to be a better man, a better Christian, and that there's something better. So I don't know how many people have come through here that aren't believers, but I would love to, based on what I've seen, I can't imagine that very many of them go away that much closer or made a decision to have a relationship with Christ. And those that are, as we call them, baby Christians, whatever age they are, they are inspired to want to do that better. Because as you said earlier, the father leading this family to hell, that's something that you take serious about, and being active in preventing that in other families and in the people that you encounter. And as I witness that, it makes me want to be better at doing that as well and taking that home. So it's just the first, like I said earlier, the spiritual side of it that's been taking place since I've been here. It'll kill me. It'll beat me up if I don't pass my phase test. But the experience that I've already had and the experience I'm expecting to have is priceless. And if I had to choose not making that phase, I would do that if it was a choice between the experience I'm already having and that every day, all day long.
That's awesome to hear, because we say that everybody leaves here better every single time, including the staff, right? And that's a commitment from all of us, including, by the way, the other students. I can't make anybody do anything.
Right.
Like, and I tell people, I'm not your dad. You can do whatever you want. You want to curse like a sailor came from somewhere, because I used to do it. I used to be very good at it. I can minimize people to ash with my wit and my profanity and make you feel about worthless. And it was funny, right? And I've seen the damage that does. But you can do whatever you want, including talk like that. You're just going to do it out in the street, because this is my house, right? Mm-hmm. This is actually Christ's house. I said, when I left to go to Texas, and every February I do something that betters me, the investment in me, whether it be we went to Vegas for the SEPTED thing, and learn more about the industry standard on safety and building and all that stuff. This year it was the Texas trip. It's an investment in me. Nobody made me win. You didn't make me go. I chose to do it, so I can't make you do this. But when I left, I told the staff, I need to go meet with the true CEO of Able Shepherd. Like the CEO's calling a meeting, and we're going to go get face to face, right? And I'm way better for it, and we're leaning in even more. Yeah. But again, I'm not forcing anybody, because you guys know the definition of shepherd around here. Yes, it's teacher, leader, protector. But the way that we do that as a shepherd doesn't herd you like by beating through. I'm going this direction, and you're invited. That's really all I know to do. I'm following Christ, and I'm going to go do this thing. But if I'm going to be involved, it's going to be fun. And there will be adventure, and there will be this live life to the full mentality, because I believe that that's the way that I was called to do this. Like, enjoy his creation, use the wild to call to the hearts of men and pull it out of them. And I absolutely love it. And I've told this like to BK, it's like, or around here, I say this all the time. It's easy to, like, if you're hanging out with like-minded people, it's easy to shop for them. You just go get the thing that you think's cool. Like, that's a sweet axe. I'm going to buy that for so-and-so. And they're like, dude, an axe or whatever, It's like, it's easy. So I'm not saying you'd even like it. I'm just saying I am called to do this. There's like-minded people, and they're called to do it too, right? And it's funny, because you think that, and then all of a sudden there's people that aren't really like-minded, and they think differently, but they too show up. And you're like, what are you doing here?
Right.
I heard a thing was going on, and you're like, okay, well, hang out, and do all this. But I'm not going to conform to the things I don't agree with. That if it is something, and you said this, people hang out here. And did you know that was BK?
I did not.
Trash out. Yeah. So he literally came up to me one night, and it was a very kind of serious conversation. He's like, I feel something here that I don't really feel out there. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, BK, but it was, I need to be here more. Can I take out the trash? Can I help with anything? And I'm not kidding, And he literally, I'd see him just hanging out and taking the trash out, all this other stuff. And it was cool, because I'm like, I'm winging it, man. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? But it feels right. And I'm led to do it, and we're going to keep doing it. And I, lost everything. And then we got an opportunity here, and it grew, and it took forever to the point of your Montana trip. I want everything right now. This building thing we're doing, I want it right now. I want it to happen and whatever.
Yep.
It's just not, but it is happening.
It is happening.
And we're heading that direction.
That's right.
And God continues to grow me, and he's, humbled me many times, and it's hurt. And I've seen the valleys. But now the peaks are that much better. Right. So it's like, okay, I trust you. Let's just go do it.
Right. And the one huge thing that we say a lot back home, and I absolutely witness it here, is by our actions, we earn the right to speak into others.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And witnessing your actions, it's priceless in getting to see, because sometimes you're in it and you don't always get to see what's happening because you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And coming down here, we've developed friendships and we're really close, but I'm still like on the outside looking in type of thing. So when I come here, I get to witness how it's done, the action part of it. And then I get to stand back and witness, because of those actions, that these other men recognize that because you toe the line, you've earned the right to speak into their life. And even if that's a rebuking or a loving correction or coming alongside and just teaching and pouring into their lives. And it's all because, and I realize you're not perfect, but well, I don't want to.
Who's this guy?
I know.
God.
I don't mean it.
Absolutely.
I don't mean it negatively like that. But I guess what I'm saying is that you do it so well that it lights a fire in at least me.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
It lights a fire in me to just want to, that I recognize that I need to do better at my action part, whether it's with my marriage or my crew or my kids or whatever the case is, my security church people back home. And you get that here, and you get to shoot guns.
I need to shoot guns. And praise the Lord. So I give all of that glory to God and thank you, because I always want to be able to receive that and say thank you, but, and not be big headed about it. But like you guys joined me for church, and I introduced you to my pastor, Pastor Jeff. And, he says this thing that has resonated. You've heard him say it. What did he say? I don't love perfectly, but I love increasingly. Increase. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think what people don't fully realize, but I totally understand it. Who do you think gets the most out of all of this? This guy, right? Because I get to see it all day, every day. This is what I do, right? So I get to see, man, what I get out of when I earn the conversation, right? When somebody says, "Can I talk to you in the parking lot?" And they tell me that this saved their life.
Right.
Like this has happened more than once. These stories of them being a better man, of them literally thinking about ending everything, and they found a family. Right. Of saying that they're having thoughts about her, and then we get to join it and start a group and do something to come around them because I believe in them, and they needed somebody to believe in them. You know what I mean? This whole thing was a validate. I grow every time that happens. Yeah. Right. And I go and pray and I say, God, what do you want me to do with this? And we do it and it works. And you're like, wow, that worked. I didn't think that was going to work. Okay. Well, what's next? And then that works. Okay. This one, I wish this would work faster, but it doesn't. Oh, you're working on my patience. Cool. I'm done with my patience. How about now? He's like, no, that's not patience. Right. So this has been going year after year after year. Yeah. And it adds value, but then it breaks my heart too. And I told you guys this, be careful when you say, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. Right. Because then he does. Right? So when you see things like what I just saw in Texas, when I go to Vegas to SHOT Show, first time ever that I've ever been, I've heard of it, and it's unbelievable, the production. But this is what my takeaway from that was: a lot of people are using this platform to build a business and to make a bunch of money. That's fantastic, but I don't see a foundation with Navy SEALs, right? Because we're hosted by SO Company. And it's kind of the same old song and dance, but then I start talking about Jesus. Mm-hmm. And here they come. And I'm like, well, this is weird. Because usually it was the other way, right? I was like, oh, this guy. But now you're not talking to a 20-year-old kid. You're talking to a 49-year-old man that knows who he is. And he knows his mission. He knows his spot in this world and what he's supposed to be doing. And it's different. So now it's not like, oh, Jimmy's a whatever, right? Because it's this. Now you're talking to a man that's not going to take the bait and roll around with you on the floor. Well, maybe. But anyways, they say this, and now they want to know more because they've got questions. And they start to talking that they go to church, and they're saying that it's this and that, and the church today, and it's like, be careful talking about the church today, because I understand, because I agree with a lot of that. But a non-believer is going to hear from that is don't go to church, right? No, they need to go to church, and they need to find a good church, and there's plenty out there. So be careful about that. But what I saw was that I got validation from the elite of my peer group. They were saying, this is different what you're doing, and I like it, and I want to come to Denver, right? And this is in a paid-for, drinks are free bar, upper echelon party in Vegas, and the world stops, and we're talking about Jesus. Probably the only ones in the room doing that, right? And it's not just me, it's Parker. Right? Parker doesn't have a background in this. He's got a group of Navy SEALs around him saying, say more words that are true, right? That's cool. Then I come back and I do, all while fasting. I'm the dude carrying around a bag of drinks.
I saw
to live in Vegas, right?
Slim
like,
fat Santa Claus,
man. I'm like, you're in Vegas. I'm like, whatever. And then I go to Kansas City. So I come back and I go to Kansas City, which was an amazing thing. I get nominated inducted.
Whoops.
Freudian slip. Inducted into my Hall of Fame for my high school. And I didn't give it enough credit, but after the fact, when I thought about it, it was amazing. It's a great story because if you knew me in high school and we talked about that, it involves a lot of just lost kid. So I went there to talk to the lost kids, right? And they handed me this thing. Then I come up and get to break fast with you, proving with this group of men that this can be done.
Yes.
And starting a ministry. We just started a ministry.
We did.
And they're on fire. Right?
They are.
And they're protectors to the core, and they're ready to rock and roll. And I love it. And I'm like, well, that was stinking cool. Then I break fast with your beautiful family. What's up, Chris? And Les and Jill. And it's just those sweet moments. And then I go to Texas, and then I see more pain in one room than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And these are good men. They're just lost men. Hey, guys, thanks for checking out part 1. Part 2 is even better, so make sure you check it out. Thanks.